Welcome everyone to this Sunday's service for the 17th of January. I'll begin, as I always do, by lighting our chalice candle. And some words by Jason Cook. We seekers are on a quest to discover truth and meaning. Sometimes we think we found it, wrapped up, glimmering with newness, straight off the intellectual assembly line. All the answers right here for us and others if they'd only listen. But truth has a way of coming in disguise, sometimes wearing rags and sometimes finery, but so often cloaked from our immediate sight. And sometimes that which we have rejected, that which we have let go of or decided was only for others but not for us, can be our teacher. Let our time of worship be an acknowledgement of the never-ending journey towards truth and meaning, and our appreciation of those we learn from along the way. Wisdom is a strange thing. Some religions say it comes only from one source, written down in a particular collection of writings. Others say it can only be found through particular experiences. Unitarians tend to be a bit more eclectic. We generally believe that wisdom can be found in all sorts of places and all sorts of ways, including Winnie-the-Pooh. And today, Sunday 17th of January 2020, is the day before A.A. Milne's birthday, he who created Winnie-the-Pooh. And so we shall celebrate the wisdom and the fun found in the life of that bear of little brain, and maybe find some wisdom of our own. Winnie-the-Pooh is a gentle, brave, life-loving little bear. And wisdom often reminds us to find the joy and the fun in life too. And this hymn pays tribute to that wisdom, written by Francis Simons. I hope I'm forgiven for sharing all the verses with you this time round. It's called Celebrate the Gift of Laughter. Celebrate the gift of laughter. Celebrate the gift of fun. Celebrate till every rafter echoes songs so gaily sung. Put away all gloom and sadness, let there be no lingering trace. Celebrate life's joy and gladness with a smile on every face. Cultivate the art of clowning. Seek the joy in midst of pain. Smiling's easier than frowning, so seek the rainbow in the rain. If we smile, whate'er befall us, and folk speak of us as mad, take no heed of what they call us. Rather happy be than sad. There's cause for celebration all around. Yep, all around. Humour's built into creation, into sight and into sound. Life is full of fresh surprises, gifts of laughter, gifts of fun. All we need are ears and eyes to appreciate each one. Glory to the cosmic comic, source of laughter, source of fun, who delights in heavenly frolic with the planets, stars and sun. In the joyous recreation coming with each newborn day, let us live in quiet elation, come what may. Yes, come what may. So let's join together again in a time of prayer. This prayer was written by Maureen Killerana, and I've slightly adapted it. Spirit of life and love, energy of creation, endless mystery of life. You are the music that sounded before our world was born, sound and silence woven throughout the ages, far beyond the most profound wisdom humanity has been able to touch. Be with us. Deepen our willingness to live without certainty, to take the risks of living on the edges of our creativity, to step beyond the boundaries of possibility and hope. Help us always to remember that we are in our essence the magic of star stuff, that we are kin to all that is and was and may yet come to be. Teach us to temper our impatience, to retain our conviction that what we do makes a difference, that even our smallest act can contribute to the good of a greater whole. Be with us in our uncertainties. Rejoice with our small triumphs. Comfort our losses. Remind us that we are never alone, not in our joys or in our tears. In the blessing of our togetherness, may we feel your presence, something greater than we have yet been able to comprehend. Amen. Well, my first reading is not actually by A. Milne at all. It's by Benjamin Hoff, who wrote The Tao of Pooh. "What's this you're writing?" asked Pooh, climbing onto the writing table. "The Tao of Pooh," I replied. "The how of Pooh?" asked Pooh, smudging one of the words I had just written. "The Tao of Pooh," I replied, poking his paw away with my pencil. "It seems more like the ow of Pooh," said Pooh, rubbing his paw. "Well, it's not," I replied huffily. "What's it about?" asked Pooh, leaning forward and smearing another word. "It's about how to stay happy and calm under all circumstances," I yelled. "Have you read it?" asked Pooh. That was after some of us were discussing the great masters of wisdom, and someone was saying how all of them came from the East, and I was saying that some of them didn't, but he was going on and on, just like this sentence, not paying any attention, when I decided to read a quotation of wisdom from the West, to prove that there was more to the world than one half, and I read, "When you wake up in the morning, Pooh," said Piglet at last, "what's the first thing you say to yourself?" "What's for breakfast?" said Pooh. "What do you say, Piglet?" "I say, I wonder what's going to happen exciting today," said Piglet. Pooh nodded thoughtfully. "It's the same thing," he said. "What's that?" the unbeliever asked. "Wisdom from a Western Taoist," I said. "It sounds like something from Winnie-the-Pooh," he said. "It is," I said. "Well, that's not about Taoism," he said. "Oh, yes, it is," I said. "No, it's not," he said. "Well, what do you think it's about?" I said. "Well, it's about this dumpy little bear that wanders around asking silly questions, making up songs, and going through all kinds of adventures without ever accumulating any amount of intellectual knowledge or losing his simple-minded sort of happiness. That's what it's about," he said. "Same thing," I said. We'll read more from Pooh in a little bit. But first let's join together again in a time of prayer. This, a prayer of gratitude by Swiftwalker. Let's start with the people we love and those who love us. Thankful they are in our lives, obliging us to open our hearts. Let open hearts embrace the earth, the sea and soil and stars, blessed by bold beauty, the bounty of being. Then, with hearts open to beauty, let us embrace the arts and the generation of learning, that we should have wisdom. Let what wisdom we have, one and wanting, lead us to strive, so the 7th generation hence can live more fully. It is in that work, and that alone, that we can express our thankful spirit. May we make it so, and for the opening to make it so, let us be truly grateful. Amen. Now we come to A. Milne's Winnie-the-Pooh. This reading comes from The House at Pooh Corner. Pooh, Piglet and Rabbit have gone for a walk and got lost in the mist, in the way that people often do when with Rabbit. This story shows how inner wisdom of all varieties can help get people unlost again. The fact is, said Rabbit, we've missed our way somehow. They were having a rest in a small sandpit at the top of the forest. Pooh was getting rather tired of that sandpit and suspected it of following them about, because whichever direction they started in, they always ended up back at it. And each time, as it came through the mist at them, Rabbit said triumphantly, "Now I know where we are." And Pooh said sadly, "So do I." And Piglet said nothing. He had tried to think of something to say, but the only thing he could think of was, "Help! Help!" And it seemed silly to say that when he had Pooh and Rabbit with him. "Well," said Rabbit, after a long silence in which nobody thanked him for the nice walk they were having, "we'd better get on, I suppose. Which way shall we try?" "How would it be," said Pooh slowly, "if, as soon as we're out of sight of this pit, we try to find it again?" "Well, what's the good of that?" said Rabbit. "Well," said Pooh, "we keep looking for home and not finding it. So I thought that if we looked for this pit, we'd be sure not to find it, which would be a good thing, because then we might find something that we weren't looking for, which might be just what we were looking for, really." "Don't see much sense in that," said Rabbit. "If I walked away from this pit and then walked back to it, of course I should find it." "Well, I thought perhaps you wouldn't," said Pooh. I just thought." "Try," said Piglet suddenly. "We'll wait here for you." Well, Rabbit gave a laugh to show how silly Piglet was and walked into the mist. And after he'd gone 100 yards, he turned and walked back again. And after Pooh and Piglet had waited 20 minutes for him, Pooh got up. "I just thought," said Pooh. "Now then, Piglet, let's go home." "Oh, but Pooh!" cried Piglet, all excited. "Do you know the way?" "No," said Pooh. "But there are 12 pots of honey in my cupboard, and they've been calling to me for hours. I couldn't hear them properly before because Rabbit would talk. But if nobody says anything except those 12 pots, I think, Piglet, I shall know where they're calling from. Come on." They walked off together, and for a long time Piglet said nothing, so as not to interrupt the pots. And then suddenly he made a squeaky noise and a "ooh" noise, because now he began to know where he was. But he still didn't dare to say so out loud, in case he wasn't. And just when he was getting so sure of himself that it didn't matter whether the pots went on calling or not, there was a shout in front of them, and out of the mist came Christopher Robin. Sometimes we just need to really listen to the wisdom within us to find our way through life. Which brings me to a very short passage by Leslie Takahashi called Labyrinth, which I shall read to you, and then we'll have some time of quietness. Walk the maze within your heart. Guide your steps into its questioning curves. This labyrinth is a puzzle, leading you deeper into your own truths. Listen in the twists and turns. Listen in the openness within all searching. Listen. A wisdom within you calls to a wisdom beyond you. And in that dialogue lies peace. Let us take a moment of quietness now to walk the maze within our own hearts and listen to our own wisdom. Let us be silent together now. Amen. We are Homo sapiens, human beings. Sapiens comes from sapience, which itself is closely related to Sophia, often defined as transcendent wisdom, ultimate reality, or ultimate truth. This sapiential perspective of wisdom is said to lie in the heart of every religion, where it is often acquired through intuitive knowing. It's described as going beyond mere practical wisdom and includes self-knowledge, interconnectedness, conditioned origination of mind states, and other deeper understandings of subjective experience. This type of wisdom can also lead to the ability of an individual to act with appropriate judgment, a broad understanding of situations, and greater appreciation and compassion towards other living beings. Thank you, Wikipedia. Kayla Parker has a shorter version, when she says simply, wisdom, fundamentally, is knowing who you are, where you are, and what you are trying to do or be. Much easier to understand. In Judaism, wisdom is one of the highest virtues, represented by Solomon, but also in Proverbs 8, this personified wisdom, which is female, is described as being present with God before creation began, and even taking part in creation itself. In the New Testament, the book of James explains how wisdom helps people acquire other virtues too. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. In Islam, too, particularly Sufi Islam, wisdom and truth are considered divine attributes. And the Arab philosopher Al-Kindi says at the beginning of his book on first philosophy, "We must not be ashamed to admire the truth or to acquire it from wherever it comes, even if it should come from far-flung nations and foreign peoples. There is for the student of truth nothing more important than the truth. Nor is the truth demeaned or diminished by the one who states or conveys it. No one is demeaned by the truth. Rather, all are ennobled by it." In Buddhism, developing wisdom is of central importance, where the ultimate aim is often presented as seeing things as they are. Developing wisdom is accomplished through an understanding of what are known as the Four Noble Truths, and by following the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha had an awful lot to say about wisdom, including, "He who leads others by non-violence, righteously and equitably, is indeed a guardian of justice, wise and righteous." And, "One is not wise merely because he talks much, but he who is calm, free from hatred and fear, is verily called a wise man." Greed, anger, and ignorance are the three main barriers to wisdom. But Buddha taught his followers to turn greed into generosity and discipline, anger into kindness and meditation, and ignorance into knowledge. In Hinduism, likewise, wisdom is considered a state of mind and soul, where a person achieves liberation and peace. The Sanskrit verse to attain knowledge is, "Lead me from the unreal to the real. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from death to immortality. May there be peace, peace, and peace." That's from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1.3.28. And the philosophers, of course, were always on the hunt for wisdom, whether they called it phronesis, Sophia, or, after Plato, philosophia, love of wisdom. In Taoism, which Winnie-the-Pooh illustrates so beautifully, whether or not he was intended to, wisdom is construed as adherence to the three treasures of charity, simplicity, and humility, which is, after all, Winnie-the-Pooh down to a T. But it's what I love about Unitarianism. Well, one of the many things I love about Unitarianism. That we acknowledge that wisdom is not confined to one particular source, but instead can be found in all sorts of places, from any number of sources, even some very unlikely sounding ones. As the reading from Benjamin Hoff pointed out, nobody initially thinks that Winnie-the-Pooh, which was after all written as a children's book, is a great source of wisdom that can bring peace and courage. But it is. Whether that's from the story where Piglet discovers that he does have the courage to act when he is the only one small enough to fit through the letterbox when Al's house falls down, or where Eeyore teaches us that sometimes the simplest of birthday presents can bring the greatest of joys, as he puts the popped balloon from Piglet into the empty honey jar from Pooh, and takes it out again, and puts it in again, and takes it out again. It's the fact that wisdom doesn't have to be, and indeed is often best when it absolutely isn't, wordy and intellectual and academic and complicated. Wisdom, as Taoism and Winnie-the-Pooh teach, is simple. It's about the very basic building blocks of life. It's about humility and generosity and being beautifully uncomplicated. Eating honey with a friend. Going for walks to find the North Pole. Welcoming newcomers, no matter how different they look from you. Kanga and Roo. And being able to see things as they are. Is it a bell rope? Or is it a tail? It's pure wisdom in its kindest and gentlest form. And the world could do with a lot more of it. And so I will end with Winnie-the-Pooh again, from the end of the Pooh books. They walked on, thinking of this and that, and by they came to an enchanted place at the very top of the forest called Galleon's Lap, which is 60-something trees in a circle. And Christopher Robin knew that it was enchanted, because nobody had ever been able to count whether it was 63 or 64. Not even when he tied a piece of string around each tree after he had counted it. Being enchanted, its floor was not like the floor of the forest, gorse and bracken and heather, but close-set grass, quiet and smooth and green. Sitting there, they could see the whole world spread out until it reached the sky. And whatever there was, all the world over, was with them in Galleon's lap. Pooh, promise you won't forget about me, ever, not even when I'm 100. Pooh thought for a little. How old shall I be then? 99. Pooh nodded. I promise, he said. Still with his eyes on the world, Christopher Robin put out a hand and felt for Pooh's paw. Pooh, said Christopher Robin earnestly, if I'm not quite... He stopped and tried again. Pooh, whatever happens, you will understand, won't you? Understand what? Oh, nothing. He laughed and jumped to his feet. Come on. Where? Said Pooh. Anywhere, said Christopher Robin. And so, a blessing. May we all find the wisdom within us to welcome, to befriend, to be compassionate, to share food and drink and sunsets and sunrises. May we all find the wisdom to know when to speak and when to sit quietly, when to take action and when to pause, when to step forward and when to let others take centre stage. And may we all find the wisdom within us to know our true, priceless value, and the same priceless value of every other being we meet, whether they are a Christopher Robin, a piglet, an owl, a tigger, or even a bear of little brain. Amen. thank you for joining me, and I hope you both enjoyed those little snippets of Winnie the Pooh and maybe found a little bit of wisdom of your own within them. And I'll see you same time next week, you in your home and me in mine. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, and know that you are loved.